Welcome to SuperCrowdChicago, live in person at Columbia College Chicago and streaming live internationally on the E360 TV network and across social media.
I want to just share an important message. I think this is really important. When I talk about crowdfunding, I'm talking about regulated investment crowdfunding, where I like to focus on the impact crowdfunding when we're trying to do something good, impactful with our crowdfunding. And I want you to understand as we go throughout this day that it really works. There are people sitting in this room that are like living proof of this in so many ways. And we'll hear from some of them later on today. One of the reasons I say crowdfunding works is that women are able to get about 5 times the proportion of capital raised through crowdfunding as compared to venture capital. Venture capitalists famously or infamously invest about 2% of their capital in women-only teams. 2%. And here's the interesting thing about that. That statistic was true when I first wrote about it for Forbes a decade ago. And it has not changed. The proportion in 2023 was 1.9%. About 10% of crowdfunding capital goes to women-only teams. So it's a dramatically higher proportion, 5 times better. And we also see that teams with women are also raising a lot of capital. Nearly half goes to teams that include women. Crowdfunding works for diverse founders across the spectrum. We're seeing great evidence of data that shows that minorities as well as women are able to raise more capital as a proportion of the capital flow through crowdfunding than they are venture capital. And this is important. We see a similar dynamic, not only with crowdfunding, but with traditional resources like banking. So as you think about this as an entrepreneur, and it deserves your attention. And crowdfunding works for community builders and for social entrepreneurs. If you're trying to make change in the world, crowdfunding is a tool for you that can help you capitalize a business, attract capital that will genuinely support you instead of exploit you. So for change makers, crowdfunding is an invaluable tool. Now for investors, crowdfunding works. I know that there's some skepticism in the world around crowdfund investing, and it's just like anything else. The better you do it, the better your returns. So yeah, there are going to be stories of people who have invested capital and didn't do well with it, just like in the venture capital arena. Venture capital professionals, the bottom quartile of venture capital professionals, people who get paid a lot of money to manage venture funds, lose money on average. So I want you to understand, yes, you can lose money with crowdfunding investments. You need to be careful. You need to be wise. But crowdfunding works for investors. Let's think this through just a little bit. For most ordinary investors, the stock market is the highest return opportunity we have. Put money into the stock market, and if you track the results of the market, ignoring all the fees, all the transaction costs, and all the stupid decisions people sometimes make, that will return about 10% over the long haul, 10%. Not especially stellar, but that's what you have the potential to earn with venture, with stock market. Of course, let's be clear, most of us in the room are old enough to remember 2007 through 2009. And from the peak of the market in 2007 to the bottom of the market 18 months later, we saw the stock market decline 56%. 56%. Now, I remember living through that and being pretty traumatized, right? That was a big drop in wealth for a lot of people. So I want you to be very clear. Stock market is probably the best investment alternative for ordinary investors, and yet it is a terrible place to put your money. But the alternatives, almost, anything that will guarantee you a safe return will guarantee that you lose money against inflation. There is no magic formula. So crowdfunding provides an opportunity for investors to earn a similar return with similar risk. And we'll talk more about that throughout the day. But I want you to be aware, crowdfunding works for entrepreneurs trying to raise capital, and it works for investors who are trying to earn a return on the capital they deploy. So the key thing is, I want you to understand, crowdfunding works for you. And I want you to be thinking today about how you can take advantage of crowdfunding.